ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Thursday Night Football Overtime. Falcons, Bucs, NFC South family business. If these two teams said they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, woo-wee! Well, that's some sweet NFC South family business. Boy, that was a hell of a contest to kick off week number 5 in the National Football League. Falcons get the win 36-30 in overtime over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both teams leave the game at 3-2. Falcons take really sole possession of first place. They're now 2-0 in the NFC South after beating the Saints last week, now beating the Buccaneers in consecutive weeks. Meanwhile, the Bucs dropped to 0-1 in the division. So a big win for the Atlanta Falcons. Didn't want to drop 2 behind the Bucs in the division, and also getting a second win. And it's important to win those games at home against divisional opponents. They've had 2 in a row at home. They're going to have a lot of road games late in the season, especially in the division. So, or going to have this same Bucs team in like 3 weeks, they said. So they'll have to find ways to win on the road in the division, but a big one here for the Falcons. They've had close games all season, as it was chronicled during the telecast, and they got it done again in this game. Let's talk about Kirk Cousins, shall we? Put some respect on my man's Kirk name, all right? I had somebody, I tweeted out before the game, give me the Atlanta Falcons to get this week off on the left foot for the kid, right? Somebody said, never trust Kirk Cousins. And I said, that's my guy. I rides for my guy. And there's this false narrative that has been circulating for years on Kirk Cousins that he doesn't get it done in clutch situations. All I see is Kirk getting it done in clutch situations. And so when they got that football, and the biggest mistake, we could talk about Bucky Irvin's fumble, and the game was over if he doesn't fumble there. But and I felt so bad for the young fella, you know, because he felt bad about the fumble. But that's not where the game was lost. You know, we could go back there, and obviously if he doesn't fumble there, the game's over, right? Atlanta's going to have to start using all their timeouts. They're going to kick a field goal. It's probably over, right? But that's not what the game was lost after they went for it on 4th and 15, which I agreed with. I would have gone for it on 4th and 15 too, because what does punting do for you, really? I mean, more likely than not, you couldn't stop Tampa all night long. And in my estimation, I'd rather have a condensed field and knowing that I don't have to defend as much field, so I can play a little bit more aggressive in terms of stopping the run. More field to defend, more things Tampa Bay can do, and now they can get a first down, game's over, right? I understand the logic behind punting. You got all 3 of your timeouts. You get, you know, keep them down by 3, but my mind was go for it on 4th and 15. You don't get it. You use all 3 of your timeouts because Tampa's not going to be super aggressive if they already got a field goal in their back pocket. That was another thing that I was thinking about. They're not going to be super aggressive. We already got a field goal in our back pocket. Now they need a touchdown to beat us with no timeouts. I like my chances. And so talk about the missed face mask. First of all, it's hard to see a face mask in the middle of the football field where that penalty took place. I don't even know if he grabbed the face mask and tugged it. I know he grabbed it initially. I couldn't see if his hand was still there, but normally when a head turns like this involuntarily, it's usually because the defender has a piece of the face mask. So my guess would lead me to believe that was a face mask. But ultimately, that penalty, and this is what you tell, and I told you can't take the young boys nowhere. I always tell y'all, be careful who you take. You know, not all youngins are created equal. You can't take the young boys nowhere, especially on the road. On a big stage like this, you can't take the young boys. You get the Bucky Irvin fumble. You got the Graham Barton holding penalty at the most inopportune time. You cannot hold in that situation. No yardage is worth 10 yards and a penalty and stopping the clock in that situation. It ain't worth it. If he gets tackled for a 2-yard loss, so be it. And it's hard to tell an offensive lineman who does this every single, hey, don't do whatever you got to do to try to get your block done, whether that's a hold, because they do it on every play. There's holding on every play. It just doesn't get called. So it's hard to tell the offensive lineman, hey, don't hold him. If you get beat, just let him go, because that's not how they wire. But you can't hold in that situation. If Grady Jarrett wants to make a tackle for no gain or 1 yard loss, let him. We in field goal range. Let him. So that was huge, right? Because now that pushes you. I didn't love the play calling. You know, these screens that they were throwing, they were really dicey. Like, what are we doing here, right? I'd rather get Bake out on the edge on a boot. They weren't stopping that all night. I'd rather Bake was hot. He was cooking. I'd rather get Bake on the outside on a boot. Safe throw to Chris Godwin coming across the formation. I'd rather do that. In that throwback, you kept going backwards. After the holding penalty, you throw that screen, you lose another 2 yards. I didn't love it. I didn't love the play calling there. But let's talk about Atlanta, because they won the game. Oh, wow. What a finish. Kirk Cousins dealing tonight. 509 yards passing. And you saw what kind of a night it was going to be. I remember thinking to myself, shit, Kirk got 150 in the first quarter, right? The quarter wasn't even over. And Kirk already had $150. I'm like, he going to slow down at some point. Because Bake was cooking early too. And they were both kind of dueling one another. And I'm like, Bake slowed down eventually because they started to have success with the run game, things of that nature. So Bake cooled off, but Kirk just kept cooking. And, you know, it's tough to run against Tampa. They're among the best run defenses year in, year out, largely because of Vita Vea. And you go into the game thinking we probably gonna have to throw it today anyway. But for them to throw it as much as they did early set the tone. And clearly the Bucs had no answers. And Kirk was just picking them apart. But in typical Atlanta Falcons fashion, they would do something stupid to derail the drive, whether it was a penalty or Kirk would get sacked or something of that, ilk would happen, and it would derail the drive, a drop pass, what may have you. And so you could see where this shit was heading, though. Kirk had almost 300 at halftime. So you were like, man, Kirk is cooking. But I kept saying, he's going to slow down. He's going to end up with like 340-something yards. It won't seem as crazy when it's all said and done. And then we got to the end of the game, and he's, a tick under 400, and you're like, whew, Kirk was dealing tonight, but it's going to all be for naught, When he threw that slant to Drake London and he's running, I'm like, oh, boy, Drake, what are you doing, bruh? And where are the Buck defenders? This is when you're supposed to hold him down just slightly, right? They let him get up way too fast. That's when you're supposed to hold him down, knock the ball out of his hands, do some kind of foolishness, try to get away with it to not allow them to get that ball. That happened too quick, right? That whole operation was too flawless. If I'm tackling him, I'm holding his ass down for an extra second. That's all you needed, and the clock would have ran out. But they executed that thing flawlessly. And I'm not going to lie to you. I thought after the drop by Darnell Mooney, they were going to lose this game. And it was a shame because even though Mooney had another drop earlier, that one was costly, and he had a really good game. And you could argue, if you're a Falcons fan, he's been your most consistent receiver this season. So you hate to beat him up. But they were two costly drops, and he had a hell of a touchdown snag. I still don't know why Kirk even decided to throw that football. That shit was not open, and Darnell Mooney went up and made him right. And I was just like, wow, what a throw. What an even better catch. You felt for Mooney. Like, that's probably going to, like, he went and got a football and was walking around on the sidelines clutching a ball, and I'm like, damn, bro. That's a tough break. And, I was cussing his ass out because I picked the Falcons. So I'm like, you just cost me a game, bro. But at the end of the day, The Buccaneers had every opportunity to win this game, but hats off to the Falcons for finding a way, to get into field goal range. They had the dumb delayed game penalty. I don't know why they thought that they were going to get a new clock. Like, there was nothing there that suggested you should get a new 25. I'm glad it wasn't a 52-yard field goal pushed to 57. That could have been the difference between a make or a miss. Like, you got it. Like, everybody was celebrating like they won the game. You still down 3, right? So, luckily, Younghoe Koo came through in the clutch like he did a week ago and was able to send the game to overtime. And I really, truly felt this deep down in the bottom of my soul. Whoever won the toss was going to win the game. Didn't think Atlanta could really stop Tampa's offense. If they really wanted to score, I didn't think they were going to be able to stop them. And I felt the same way about Tampa's defense. Neither defense really had the juice tonight. So I really felt like whoever wins this toss probably going to win the game. That's real talk. And when Atlanta won, Tampa's defense was gassed. They'd been out there quite a bit down the stretch of this game. And Kirk was moving it. Guys have been open all night. Obviously, 509 yards tells the story. Even when he was under duress, he hung in the pocket and delivered darts all night long. And it just felt like one of those situations. Once this thing got to overtime, you kind of felt like all the momentum was on the side of Atlanta, which is why you knew it's inevitable at this point. If Atlanta wins this toss, they're going to win the game. I thought about the Commanders' Monday night game against the Bengals in the sense of we knew we needed a touchdown when we were up 5. We couldn't settle for a field goal. On that 3rd and 7, if Jaden doesn't hit Terry and we got to kick a field goal and it's an 8-point lead, Joe is going down, scoring a touchdown, getting a 2-point conversion, the game goes to overtime, and we're going to lose. Because you can't let a team at home send the game to overtime in dramatic fashion because it's deflating to the team that had a chance to win. And now you got to find a way to muster up the strength to go to overtime and find a way to win the game again. That's just tough to do. It's tough. I've seen it so many times in my life as a football fan. It generally does not work out favorable for the team who blew the opportunity to win the game in regulation. It just doesn't, especially if you don't touch it first to kick off overtime. And so once the Falcons won that toss, you're like, yeah, you see where this shit's going. I wonder if Bijan Robinson's all right because we did not see a lot of him after his helmet got knocked off when he threw it to Mooney. I don't think we saw him again. And I could be wrong, but I felt like he was starting to get going on the ground. Maybe something happened to him after that block where his helmet came off. But Drake London, this was the first time I've been talking about this Falcons offense, and I've been really disappointed in what I've seen from them thus far, even though I'm well aware that it is a new offense with Zach Robinson, and you've got a bunch of moving parts. Kirk Cousins is brand new, and he didn't practice a lot, or he did practice, but he wasn't himself in the offseason coming back from the Achilles. And so he really didn't start running the offense the way that they are running it now. And you can see he's still not 100% with the Achilles, because even on some of those handoffs, those outside zone handoffs where he's got to run to the mesh point, he's barely getting there, right? He's still not 100%. But you can see them starting to put bits and pieces of the puzzle together offensively. This is a talented group. I've talked about Kyle Pitts. He came to life tonight. I talked about Drake London. He was outstanding tonight. I told you I wanted Darnell Mooney in the offseason. I wanted my team to sign Darnell Mooney. I'm a huge Darnell Mooney fan. He's been really good this season. He was really good in this game. Despite the drop, he was really good in this game. They've got weapons everywhere. I like the two-headed monster in the backfield. I don't think they throw it to Bijan Robinson enough. And I'm not talking about screens and behind the line of scrimmage throws. I'm talking about this guy can run routes. This guy can win against linebackers and safeties. You isolate him, you get him one-on-one matchups. That's easy money. They're not even utilizing him in that way. So I still think there's untapped potential for this offense. And we just hadn't seen it. They didn't even score an offensive touchdown. I talked about that yesterday on the podcast. They even scored an offensive touchdown in their win over New Orleans. It was a Troy Anderson pick six and a muff punt by Rashid Shaheed that was recovered by tonight's hero, Kadero Hodge, in the end zone for a touchdown. Like they didn't, in 4 field goals, including a 58-yarder. They didn't score last week on offense. And the offense has been really hit or miss. Really good offensive performance against Philadelphia, but you didn't finish those drives with touchdowns, so it was still disappointing. Disappointing week 1, disappointing week 3, disappointing week 4 offensively. And so this was the coming out party. Everybody got involved. Bijan started to get it going, late stages of the 3rd into the 4th. It was all day long for Drake London. You saw Kyle Pitts start the party off with the big 30-yard gain or so, and really kind of kept that momentum going. I think he had 7 or 8 grabs in this game, probably over, I'd say 70-something yards, maybe close to 80 yards receiving for him. Drake London, 12 for 154 on 13 targets. He was fantastic, living over the middle of the field. Darnell Mooney, 9 for 105, and he still had 2 drops, 2 touchdowns, was huge in this game. Kyle Pitts, 7 for 88, right? Obviously, Kadero Hodge with the big catch and run there at the end to win it. Ray McLeod is another guy that they've gotten involved here recently, 6 catches, 66 yards. So there are all kinds of weapons in this offense, and I just think if they can put the pieces of the puzzle together and it feels like they're starting to get there, this is a dangerous offense in Atlanta. And I like their defense, even though tonight was not a great showcase for their defense. And they were missing some players, most notably Troy Anderson, who was fantastic last week. He was everywhere last week. I was like, damn, Troy Anderson literally felt like at times taking over the game. They didn't have him tonight, and that hurt him. But at the end of the day, this was a statement game by Atlanta for this reason. One, you see what this offense can be, right? 2, you're building a reputation with Kirk Cousins that we're never out of a game. And that shit, again, I know some of you don't really understand how that works, but that starts to permeate within the walls of that locker room and that building. You start feeling like it doesn't matter what the deficit is. We can come back and win. They play close games. You see they're building a callus currently of how to get it done in these close games. We're going to find a way to win. And when you have that mentality, we're going to find a way to win. Somebody's going to make a play. And tonight, it was Jesse Bates III that made a play because they won a game in Philadelphia that had no business winning, right? Because they won a game last week against New Orleans that they probably had no business winning, right? And so when you start finding ways to win those types of games, guys start believing, we're going to win this game. I don't know how the hell we're going to get it done, but we're going to win this game. And all we got to do is get it back to Kirk, and Kirk is going to give us a chance. And you see, last week, Kirk got you in the field goal range. Against Philadelphia, Kirk got the touchdown to give you a chance to win the game, and you ultimately did. Tonight, Kirk got you in the field goal range. Kirk got you the touchdown in overtime. And so there's a belief that, hey, just keep it close. We'll find a way to win. And there's another belief, keep it close, and 18 is going to win it for us. Give it to 18, and he'll win it for us. And so this is big because not only was it a division game, not only was it their second consecutive division game, not only was it the second consecutive division game at home, but it also draws Tampa Bay back, to a tie with them instead of allowing that distance. I mean, Tampa Bay had a chance to really put a stranglehold on this division. And, I look at their division a lot like our division in the sense that Tampa Bay had a chance to go 4-1. They would have dropped in the process, dropped Atlanta to 2-3. The Chiefs are hosting the Saints on Monday night. Not saying that the Saints can't go in there and win with all the injuries that the Chiefs have, but the likelihood is the Chiefs are going to beat them. They're going to drop to 2-3, and you would have had a commanding 2-game lead in the division with a division win under your belt on the road, no less. Like, that would have put them in the driver's seat. And so that's a big win for Atlanta to not allow that separation to be created, to get your second win in the division, because we know this is going to come down to the wire. This division is. I don't see anybody running away with this thing. Tampa had a shot. That was their chance tonight. Go on the road, beat Atlanta, create some distance, and then, have these opportunities continue to come your way, right? Now, you got to fight. Then you were going to have to fight anyway, but it's a much tougher fight now. So, big win for Atlanta. What a dramatic come-from-behind victory. Younghoe Koo gets it done again. Atlanta, they played with fire tonight. They're lucky that they didn't get burned. You got the blocked field goal. You got the missed field goal. You got the drop pass by Darnell Mooney. You go for it on 4th and 15. That easily could have blown up in your face. I would have done the same thing. I'm not even going to front. I would have went for it as well. What's the point of punting there? I'd rather be down 6 with 1:47 left, because they were going to run it more likely than not, kick the field goal. I'd rather be down 6 with 1:41 and no timeouts and I need a touchdown with a chance than punt the bitch away. They run it, maybe throw it, because at that point now they know they got to go for the first down. If you go for it on 4th and 15 and don't get it, they're not going to be aggressive attacking the first down. They're going to look to kick the field goal. If they get the first down, cool, game's over. But they're not going to be aggressive in attacking that first down. They're going to look to just, hey, let's get this field goal. So it's all a mind game too. I would have gone for it, but they should have had given up a field goal there. It should have been a 6-point game there. Like, they played with fire tonight, and fortunately enough for them, they somehow did not get burned. But Kirk Cousins, man, what more can I say about my guy Kirk Cousins? Kirk Cousins is the real deal, and I'm sick and tired of people throwing out these false narratives about Kirk Cousins when all this man does is find ways to get it done in these clutch situations. And he's done it twice on primetime television this season, and almost did it a third time. If I didn't love the play call on 4th and 1, a toss on 4th and 1, allowing the Chiefs to use their team's defensive speed. But that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is Kirk Cousins has been fantastic this season in these situations, and really throughout his career, for that matter. And the NFL decided that Kirk Cousins was going to be must-see TV in Atlanta, because we've seen the Atlanta Falcons on primetime television 3 times in the first 5 weeks. Saw him in week 2 against the Eagles, saw him in week 3 versus the Chiefs. Now we see him again in week 5 versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, and Kirk looked good in all 3 of those contests and led them to come from behind victories in 2 out of those 3 games. And again, was en route to doing it against Kansas City before the 4th and 1 stop by the Chiefs. So hats off to Kirk Cousins and this Falcons team. A lot of home games. I talked about this on the podcast. 4 out of their first 5 games have been at home. And good thing that they finally turned it around, because they started out the season 0-2, losing to Pittsburgh and Kansas City in their first 2 home games. But they bounced back the last 2 weeks at home against divisional opponents. Last week against New Orleans, epic win with the 58-yard walk-off. And this week, the come-from-behind victory in overtime against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to secure the 36-30 victory. And so now they're going to have to go on the road, be road warriors, and find ways to get wins there. But this is a big one. This was a big win for the Atlanta Falcons as they even up the top of the division with the Bucs at 3-2. Cousins, 509 passing yards. I think that might be the highest passing game I've ever watched in person in like watching a game. I think I watched the game where Boomer Esiason, when he was a member of the Arizona Cardinals, threw for like 511 yards. I think Boomer threw for like 511. But I think that might be the most yards I've seen a quarterback throw for in a single game that I can remember. You don't see a 5-piece very often in the NFL. You see 4s all the time. 5 pieces are rare. Okay. And I think Boomer might have done his in regulation, but that's nor here nor there. I digress. Somebody said, didn't Jared Goff have 515 against the Rams? No, you mean like against the Chiefs? He might have that 51 to 48 game on a Monday night. I think you're talking about from 2018. He might have had 515 against the Chiefs that night. I don't know. It's possible. It's rare to see a 5-piece, man. I'll tell you that much. So where do I start with Tampa? That's a gut-wrenching loss. That's a gut punch. Let me start with the good before we get to the bad. Baker Mayfield played well. Is Baker Mayfield a slippery sumbitch or what? My God. Can anybody sack this guy? It's crazy how he just manages to get away in these tightly confined spaces, these third down situations, play breaks down. You guys got him dead to rights, it feels like, and somehow Baker Mayfield slithers his way out of the pocket and up the field, running through contact. Like, what is this guy? You know, he's got baby oil on his jersey or something. It's crazy, right? He was dealing early, man. That touchdown pass to Sterling Shepard, are you kidding me? What? That thing was like perfect. I would love to know the next gen statistical data on that pass and the percent chance of him completing that pass when it was thrown. That thing barely got over the fingers of a defender that put his hands up at the line of scrimmage. You got a defender in great coverage who should have turned his head around but didn't, and he's right there. And there's another set of players, one on the Bucs, one on the Falcons, that's right there that he had to zing it in between them. And then it's in the perfect pocket. Like, wowzers. What a throw. Bake was cooking, man. He was absolutely on fire, in fuego, early on in this game. And obviously, as this game went on, it's still hard for me to believe that he didn't end up with over 200 yards, because it felt like he and Kirk Cousins were going back and forth early in the game, and Bake was right there with him, and then Bake had more touchdowns than Kirk did, and then somehow the faucet for Bake throwing the football got shut off. And I really don't know how that even happened. And really in the second half, I was somewhat befuddled because I really didn't see how Atlanta was going to stop Tampa Bay's offense. Having watched that first half, it felt like if Atlanta punts or turns it over at any point in the second, they're going to lose this game, because they could not stop Tampa Bay's offense. And then they went from, I felt like, attacking vertically down the field to a bunch of screens, trying to establish the run, putting themselves in these longer third down situations. And I'm like, what happened to attacking? What happened to the first down play action fake? What happened to getting Bake out of the pocket and hitting somebody, Cade Otton or, Godwin? Like, what happened to Mike Evans on the corner route? Like, what happened in these early, down plays down the field? And I don't know what happened in the second half. Felt like they got a little bit kind of conservative, almost like they were playing with the lead, where you're like, bro, this game it's been a one-score game the entire night. What are we doing here? But they were moving the football. They were moving the football, and unfortunately for them, mistakes really got in the way. They really got in the way. I thought they had a chance to score a touchdown on the drive where Bake took the sack. I want to say that they ran it a couple of times on that sequence of downs, and I'm like, they can't stop you from throwing a football. And that's what I kind of felt in that second half. They just, for some reason, it's almost like they felt obligated. We got to run the football. And I'm like, no, you don't. Bake is killing these dudes through the air. Just let them keep dealing. And they didn't, for whatever reason. So you settle for a field goal there on that possession, where it felt like you could have delivered the knockout blow right there, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, the score was 24-20, I believe, on that possession. You score a touchdown, you go up 11. This shit's over. I felt it in my spirit. I was saying if they score a touchdown here, the game's over. I got a loss. So to settle for a field goal there, keep it at 27-20, that was the door slightly being ajar. Yeah. That was the door being slightly ajar. And that's all the Falcons needed to stay in this game, was the door to be slightly ajar. It was amazing to watch the ebb and flows of this game, because it always felt like whomever had the ball last was going to win the game. And I thought if Darnell Mooney had caught that pass and scored, because I don't know, Kirk Herbstreit made it seem like he was going to walk in the end zone. I think Jamel Dean would have been able to recover and tackle him. But because Darnell Mooney was falling down himself, right? He wasn't like on his feet. He didn't fall to the ground after he dropped the pass. He was falling down trying to catch the football. So I don't know. Maybe he would have scored. But if he had scored on that play, I think the Bucs would have went down and scored and won the game. Because it was like, I think it was about 5 minutes left, 5 and some change left when he dropped that pass, and they had to settle for the field goal, and then it got blocked. That felt like an opportunity too. After the block, Tampa had him, right? Obviously, Bucky, he's been so good. And I talked about him on the podcast yesterday. I said, if I were doing my rookie wall, and I so badly want to do my rookie wall again, it's just so time consuming. But I said, if I was still doing my rookie wall, Bucky Irving would be in my top 7 of rookies this season. He's been that good for Tampa Bay. And he was playing well again tonight. And he runs hard, and he's quicker than fast, and he does all of the little things, yards after contact, makes guys miss in a phone booth. And there he was, about to pick up a crucial first down late in the game to really put a ton of pressure on Atlanta at that point. Under 3 minutes to go. Now you got to start using your timeouts. They just got a first down. He might have scored on that play. That ball didn't come out. I think Jesse Bates III was the last Falcon defender. He's probably running into the end zone there, is my guess. But that fumble obviously was crucial. But it wasn't, like I said earlier at the top of the show, that wasn't like, yes, that's the first thing you point to when you say, damn, we lost, if you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. Game's over probably right there if he doesn't fumble. But you got to stop. Defensively, you came out, got a sack, put them, behind the sticks, 4th and 15. You get a pick, and you probably were better off not even picking the bitch off, to be honest with you, but you can't ask a defensive player not to pick that football off. I'm not upset at Levante David for picking that shit off. And y'all weren't that far away from where you would have gotten it, but you would have much better field position if you didn't catch it. But that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is you were in field goal range. Just don't hold. Don't throw the football 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage and get tackled for a 3-yard loss. Don't do those things. Like, don't go in reverse. And you would have kicked a field goal, and they would have needed a touchdown. Now, they would have had plenty of time to get it. They would have had plenty of time to get the touchdown, but make them need a touchdown. I'll take my chances. And so Tampa found and created ways late in that game to put themselves in that position to lose the game. Then, even after all of that, your punter doesn't, that ball can't go in the end zone there. They can't start at the 20, right? Every yard matters. I need that to be fair card at the 8. If they're going to let it bounce, you better put some mean backspin on that bitch, and it better kick up and check up at the 3 and bounce back to the 7 and have a Buccaneer down it there. You cannot kick that ball in the end zone. It can't happen, even if it's fair caught at the 10. So be it. You know what 10 yards would have done in that situation? Instead of a 52-yard field goal, it's a 62-yard field goal. It's a big difference. So you start them off at the 20, and you knew they were going to get in the field goal range because the Bucs hadn't stopped Kirk Cousins all night long. All night long, all night, all night long, all night, all night. Hadn't stopped him all night. 509 yards. You let them get out of bounds on the 3rd and 1, which is inexcusable. Like, at that point of the game, you know what I'm doing? I'm going to have my defenders literally lining up with their ass facing the sidelines. Put a safety over the top. And I got my ass facing the sidelines. You want to throw a slant? Go ahead. Knock yourself out. Time was of the essence. They needed, I think it was 18 seconds left. And you let them run a 5-yard out, catch it, and get out of bounds. Where's the psychological sense in that? Where's the psychological sense in that? Or it might have been 20-something seconds because I think they ran a play over the middle of the field to Ray McLeod when it was 18 seconds, and that's what got it down to 12 seconds. But it was 3rd and 1. I'm not letting them run the out route to get out of bounds. I'm not letting them do it. And, of course, they ran an out route, got out of bounds, and then they caught the slant, and I wasn't mad at the slant, but you got to hold him down. Like, this is when you got to do everything in your power, knock the ball out of his hands. Like, you don't want to be too obvious. Knocking the ball out of his hands might have created a delay of game. Like, you don't want to do that. But I would have held him down. I would have tripped him. Something like as he's trying to get up, trip him, held him a little extra long, act like I'm trying to get up and I'm tripping and I'm fumbling over my own feet. And that's going to cause him to fumble and trip over his. Like, I'm going to do something clumsy. And that I'm not going to let him get up clean, hand it to the official, and let them line up and spike it with a second. All you needed to do was stall for 1 second. The man caught the ball and kept running instead of getting down. He needed to pay for that. And you didn't make him pay for that. And then in overtime, you know, at that point, the Bucs were defeated. Once this thing went to overtime, the game was over. And they lost the toss. The game was over. You knew what it was. That's a brutal loss if you're Tampa Bay. Brutal. 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 Question now becomes, who do you have next? Can you bounce back next week? I'm actually curious. Because I heard Baltimore in there somewhere. I know it ain't next week. We got Baltimore next week. So I know it ain't that. You got the Saints next week on the road. Yikes. I mean, that's a winnable game. Don't get me wrong. But 2 in a row in the division on the road. Just let one slip through your fingers. And then after that, you got the Ravens at home. That's a Monday night game. That'll be a big one. And then after that, you get this same Falcons team at home. Then you got the Chiefs. Then you got the 49ers. I mean, you really needed to win this game. I'm going to just say that. You can bounce back next week against the Saints, but you would have had so much more margin for error had you won this game, because next week won't be easy on the road at New Orleans, but it's a winnable game. But after that, the Ravens at home on a Monday night is going to be tough. You know, got the same Falcons team. You got to go to Kansas City on a Monday night. You got the 49ers after that. I mean, it eases up after that a little bit, but that was the one to get, man. That was the one to get if you're the Buccaneers, and that one stings. That one stings a ton. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to a word from one of our sponsors. Big shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this stream. Let's go inside the odds. Brought to you by BetUS.
Inside the odds.
Looking for a new book this football season? BetUS has you covered. Fastest payouts in the industry. Get up to 10% back on your net losses twice a year. And here's the big kicker: up to 150% sign-up bonus on up to $2,000 on your first deposit. And then the next 2 deposits thereafter, 125% sign-up bonus on up to $2,000 on that deposit. So BetUS, killing the game. Check out their prop builder. right? I told you I've been playing around with the prop builder, having a ton of fun. There's a lot of different things that you can set up. If you've got an inkling, I think this is going to happen, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, you can set it up yourself. You don't got to rely on the book to put together the prop for you. You can build it yourself. But let's take a look at this game here. The odds for this game, everybody knew it was going to be close. I called Boss up before the game to get his pick for his weekly sheet, and he said, man, I'm struggling with this one. I said, I did too. I literally went with the thing that I always do, which is when I tell you, if I'm even on two teams playing in a game and I don't know which side to go with, I just go with the home team, generally speaking, right? All things equal, the tiebreaker is who's at home. If Tampa were home in this game, I would have went with the Bucs. It was the Falcons, so I went with the Falcons, and it proved to be the right move. But Vegas is telling you 1.5 was the spread here. Okay, the Falcons were 1.5 point favorites. So, and literally, like, that's what this game was. Obviously, the Falcons covered the spread in overtime, but Vegas knew. Now, I thought I looked at the over-under total for the game, and I thought that was a bit low. Now, here's the only thing that I will say in Vegas's defense. Looking at the Bet US over-under total at 44, here's what I will say in their defense. Atlanta hadn't been scoring a bunch of points, and their defense had been playing quality football. And if you look at every single one of their games before tonight, 18-10, which I throw that one out. That's an outlier because Kirk wasn't fully healthy. They weren't running their outside zone. They weren't running their normal offense. He really was just in the gun. They really weren't comfortable with him running the offense the way it needed to be run yet. It wasn't until week 2 against Philadelphia where he started to, run the outside zone and do the things that this offense it necessitates that you do, right? So, but that game they scored 22 against the Eagles, and they shouldn't have scored 22. We all know they should not have scored 22 points in that game. They scored 20 against the Chiefs. What was the score in that game? 22 against the Chiefs, something like that. And then what they scored last week? 24. I think they won that game. They had 2 touchdowns and 4 field goals. That's 26. They scored 26 points last week. So I could see why Vegas would say, you know what, maybe this is a 24-20 game, which is what 44 would have been. I can see Vegas seeing it going that way. But I didn't see that. I thought that there would be points scored here. Now, did I see 36-30? Nah. I mean, I thought we were going to be a race to 40. Who gets to 40 first? That's what it felt like. Tell me I'm wrong. This felt like, okay, neither defense can. It was to the point where Kirk Herbstreit started begging for defense. I'm like, bro, you should be glad you get in a shootout. Your games have been trash on Thursday night this year. You should be glad that both defenses are going with the Olay method tonight. He's like, all right, let's. I think it was Atlanta got on offense, and I think it had been 3 straight possessions of scores for the Bucs, 2 possessions of scores for the Falcons, and a missed field goal. And I think at that point he said, all right, let's see if the Buccaneers can get something going defensively here. Let's see if one of these defenses can get a stop. And that's how I felt like, hey, this is up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Like, no defense in this game. And it felt like it was going to get to the 40s. But it didn't happen. But obviously, the 44 was not even remotely close in terms of the final total. I only want to look at this for the total touchdowns in the game. The number was set at 4.5. Clearly, we exceeded that in the game. The Bucs scored. I think the Bucs scored 3 touchdowns, and I think the Falcons scored 3 as well. So that total was exceeded in this game. Then we're gonna get to my fun one. This is the one I enjoy the most when I'm talking about any game. And so again, all these numbers and odds are brought to you by Bet US. winning margin, okay, and the money you can put down to see how much you can win. Could you imagine putting down $100 for the Bucs to win this game, or the Falcons to win the game by, well, in this case, the Bucs to win the game by, let's say, 37 points. Let's say they won this game 47-10. And you put down $100 and they won the game. Could you imagine that? That's crazy, right? $10,000. That's wild. But anyway, I always like looking at this because, like, the Bucs could have easily won this game by 13 points. And if you put down, let's just say you put down $10, you'd have won $100, right? You put down $100, you would have won $1,000. Like, if they score that touchdown on that possession where Baker Mayfield takes that sack on third down and they go up 11, I'm not saying that the Falcons would have unraveled in this game, but I wouldn't have been shocked to see them start pressing and all of a sudden Kirk throws a pick, and now this thing gets away from them. But that's not who they've been this season. Same thing with the Falcons. It was going to be a tough ask for them. They haven't won any game this season by, all of their games have been decided by a score, right? 8 points is the biggest margin that they had in a game, and that was their 8-point loss to Pittsburgh in week 1. So it's hard to see a Falcons game ending in anything more than a 1-6, maybe 7-12 point, decision. But total points range, I love looking at this because this is where Vegas essentially tells you how they feeling. And so BetUS told us they felt like this game was going to be in the 41 to 50 point range, which the number was set at 44. So they clearly told us where they thought the number was going to be by putting it at plus 190. This thing went 66 points. So 61 to 70 points. You put down $100, you would have won $800. I could have seen it getting to 51 to 60. I didn't see it getting to 61-70. So that's interesting. And then 71 plus, you put down 100 for a shootout, you could have won $2,000. We weren't that far removed from that, right? We were at 66. So anything can happen. We just had a game on Monday night with the Detroit Lions and the Seattle Seahawks that got to 71 points, 42 to 29. So you just never know, right? You never know. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section and see what you guys have to say with this thrilling 36-30 overtime victory for the Detroit Lions. Take command for life. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, "This is why I have a signed Kirk jersey. He's him." I've been a massive Kirk Cousins supporter my entire life since he was drafted by the Commanders, or then the Redskins. And his first season, he came in. 2012 isn't 2012 without Kirk Cousins, right? Came in against the Browns or against the Ravens. Let's start there, because his first appearance was against the Falcons when Robert Griffin III sustained a concussion. And he just, didn't get it done in that game. I think he threw a pick late, and we lost that game. But then he came in the second time that year when Robert had the Holodinata hit against the Ravens and led us to, first of all, he led us to overtime. People forget that we were trailing in that game when Robert got hurt. And Kirk had to not only come in and throw a touchdown pass, he also had to throw a 2-point conversion. I think he ran a quarterback draw for the 2-point conversion and tied that thing up. We got to overtime, and then the defense got to stop. We got the big punt return, and then we ended up getting a field goal and winning the game. So Kirk was huge in that game. And then obviously, he started the next week against the Browns, which was the beginning of the end of Robert Griffin III. But he was masterful in that game against the Browns. And the rest is history, right? Had his ups, his downs, finally got the opportunity to be the full-time starter in 2015. There's you like that game against Tampa. Hell, isn't that ironic? Talking about Tampa Bay again tonight, having Kirk Cousins up, stage them, right? Maybe that's just the thing. Him and Tampa Bay, they just got a history with one another. And that resurrected his career. He was going to get benched. If they lost that game to Tampa, he was going to be benched. And they won that game. And obviously, the rest is history, you know? And I've always felt like Kirk had the ability to be clutch. Yeah, he had some games in Washington where he didn't get it done, but I thought he got a bad rap because of one game in particular, and that was the Giants game. The Giants game at the end of 2016 when he shouldn't have even been in that position. Not to make any excuses, but it is what it is. But Kirk Cousins had a lot more big games and big finishes for Washington than losses at the end where he choked, as fans always like to say. He's a stat patter at the end of games, garbage time stats. There's too many games where he put us in a position to win and we blew it. The Cincinnati game over in London should have been a chip shot, walk-off field goal. He put us in a position to win that game and it was missed. Detroit, he keeps it on a read option, takes off down the sideline, scores a touchdown. That's a late game drive, left Matthew Stafford with less than 50 seconds to beat us, and the defense gave Matthew Stafford the game. He essentially said, he told the defense, hold my beer. Went down the field and beat us in like 40-something seconds. Kirk, that was a game-winning drive, blown by the defense. And there's countless other opportunities where you can go back and say, we should have won that game. Kirk did what he needed to do on the defense. Kirk had a shootout against Dallas on a Thanksgiving where he was dealing. Defense was trash. Kicker missed 2 kicks, right? That's not his fault. But somehow it always was his fault. But in Minnesota, same thing, you know. Can't win with Kirk. Kirk went out there and was dealing in Minnesota. His best seasons of his career were in Minnesota. He was outstanding in Minnesota. And that defense that he thought he was joining up to team up with wasn't there when he got there. That defense that Case Keenum had the benefit of the year prior when they went to the NFC Championship game, that defense was nowhere to be found when Kirk showed up. Remember, everything Kirk did in Washington, he did without a run game and normally without a defense as well. No run game when he was in Washington. None which to speak of. So I've always been a Kirk supporter. And I think he's got a shot. If they can figure it out, that's not a bad defense in Atlanta. They can figure it out offensively. Things could get pretty interesting. It's a winnable division. The NFC is not loaded at all. Get a veteran quarterback like Kirk into the postseason, all bets are off. All bets are off. Ree, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ree writes, had a chance to close the game 3 effing times. Yeah, you did. And that's the part that if you're a Bucs fan, you're going to be just sick to your stomach when you think about the missed opportunities late. You got the Bucky Irvin fumble. Okay, fine. That happened. It sucks because, again, game's probably over. Then you force the 4th and 15. You get the interception. All you got to do is kick a field goal. Don't go backwards. You went in reverse. It ended up having to punt. Your punter then kicks the ball into the end zone. What an idiot. Then you got one more chance to stop them. And somehow you let them get all the way in the field goal range. And the game goes to overtime. So, yeah, you had 3 chances, man. It's rough. The Blackout B. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Blackout B writes, what it do, Lou? Falcons fan. OG Vikings fan here. Curb your enthusiasm with Kirk if y'all make the playoffs. He's fool's gold when it counts. See? This is what you get, right? Vikings fan throwing shade at Kirk because they didn't get it done with Kirk, right? Yet, they get to the playoffs, and the Vikings defense allows Daniel Jones to have the greatest game of his career in the NFL to date. Man threw for 300 yards, like 2 or 3 touchdowns. They made Daniel Jones $140 million. did the Vikings defensively, but that's Kirk Cousins' fault in the playoffs. Sure, you're right. See, this is the shit I'm talking about. It always ends up being Kirk's fault when they get to the playoffs. Somehow, some way, magically. Won them a playoff game against New Orleans. They go the next week to San Francisco. 49ers, way better team. Smoked them. That wasn't Kirk's fault. They weren't going to beat the 49ers. They weren't good enough. But again, this is what you get, right? Don't listen to him. Try to make it to the playoffs and see what happens. See what happens. Take command for life. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Goff had 517 in a loss against Tampa in 2019. Not against the Chiefs. My bad. I got confused, Lou. 500 is rarefied air. How about Kirk on primetime? See, and I don't even like that 519. I don't know if that was on a primetime stage. So while I might have watched that game, it's different if I watched it in cut up, condensed, 42-minute version on, the NFL app versus like I'm watching it happen in real time. I think I've only watched that happen maybe 2 or 3 times in my life where I've watched 500 yard. Like a bunch of 500-yard performances have happened in league history. But were we watching that game is the question. Was I watching this game? I watched this game and I'm watching Kirk do this. And I'm like, man, this feel like a big night as it's happening. I remember watching Boomer Esiason throw for 5 and some change. And I'm like, I'm watching. I think his might've been overtime too, but I'm watching that shit. And I'm like, yo, Boomer is damn, this is crazy. You know it when you see it. And I felt it as I was watching it tonight. It was crazy. It's definitely crazy. Shauna Gang, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, hey, Lou, LB's such a hater. How are you doing? I'm doing well. Did he post something on the Super Friends channel? He said he was going to post a video, but that was like 2 days ago, and I hadn't seen anything, so I didn't think he posted anything. But yes, hurt people. If he did post something talking crazy, he's backed into a corner. So of course he's gonna lash out. That means he's afraid. Because normally LB, he just laugh. He might throw 1 or 2 little jabs, but he just laugh like y'all are trash. And then he tries to demean us. He can't do that anymore. Like I told you, I've already read y'all the book of LB. I'm telling y'all how he reacts. So when you see the behavior, you know how he's feeling emotionally. I've already read you how he conducts himself in certain situations. If he doesn't respect you, then he has pity for you, right? That's why he never comes after Bad Dog, because he doesn't worry about the Giants. So he feels threatened by Dallas, which is why he spends every waking moment trying to torment Dallas Cowboys fans. That, and they're very annoying, but that's why he attacks them so aggressively, because that's the team that he fears the most. Now he starts to feel pressure from us, so we're going to get some of that now, right? We're going to get some of that vitriol now because we're legitimate threats. So, we'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. Shauna Gang, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB mob. You know what to do. Show Shauna Gang some love. Welcome Shauna Gang with open arms. Welcome to the squad. Shauna Gang. Billy D. Marcus, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, what's up, Lou? What's up, Billy D? New member. Glad to have you on board. Just in time. Party's just getting started. We having a blast. Appreciate your grind. I appreciate you for the support. Skins fan since 80 at 5 years old. So good seeing this monster fan base wake up again. JD is that dude. Isn't it, though? Isn't it great to see the fan base being re-energized? We're really going to see. Like, it feels like it right now that the fan base is re-energized, but we're really going to see if the fan base is truly re-energized or not this Sunday. Because if you can't almost have a full house, if you can't get it rep, again, This ain't Dallas. This ain't the Giants. This ain't the Eagles, where you expect them to infiltrate the stadium. This ain't the Steelers. Thank God it ain't the Steelers. It's the Browns. If you can't feel this, it feels a lot like week 1 last year against Arizona, where we had hyped the shit up. No more Daniel Snyder. Got a new ownership group in here, even though we knew still not going to be a lot of changes made. They just took over, but still, it was like the shackles had been released. Let's go out and party. Arizona, you're up. And you like, Arizona ain't going to fill up the stadium with Cardinals fans. We got to turn up. And then it rained, and it was still charged up, but it didn't give the energy that it was supposed to. Here's another opportunity for the fan base. And now you got every reason to come out and support. That win against Arizona, I can go, and this, I liken it to more so the 2018 season, first year without Kirk. We go on the road and we beat Arizona week 1. And we got Adrian Peterson, and we got Alex Smith, and we beat them up pretty good. And we came home thinking they thought they were going to come home to this, Warriors welcome. And they came home to, hey, man, this is some bullshit. We ain't buying what y'all selling. Colts fans were there, loud and proud. And you're like, wait, it's the Colts fans in here making noise? That's not happening this time, but I want to see the residual effect of, I call it the Jaden Daniels effect. I want to see the Jaden Daniels effect at home. I want to see Northwest Stadium light up for the kid. Bring the energy, bring the noise. JD is definitely that dude. He's one of them ones. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Video channel writes, Lou, is the NFC wide open? It's open. Wide open? Like, the 49ers and the Lions are still really good. Okay, let's make sure we're fully aware that those two teams are still legit. We're going to see the 49ers up close and personal next week, Thursday Night Football, against the Seattle Seahawks on the road. That should be fun. I'll be scouting, right? We already seen Seattle. They were the last undefeated team, not named the Minnesota Vikings. They already fell. But I saw that the Seattle Seahawks are legit. They're not going to go away. They're not going to fade unless Geno Smith gets injured. And even then, they got Sam Howell. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Right? I don't think they're going away. Kenneth Walker is like, they got too many good guys on offense. That their skill group is ridiculous. Between DK and Lockett and Smith and Jigba and Kenneth Walker III, who is just an animal, man. An animal. Animal crackers. He's a beast. So I don't think they're going away. But when it's all said and done, it's still Detroit. It's still San Francisco that I think you got to go through. We don't play either one of them in the regular season, so we don't get to really measure ourselves up against them. But what we can do is we can, play, our way into the postseason, build up, enough confidence to where if we see one of those boys, we're not afraid. But yes, the NFC is open. Wide open would suggest that, yeah, let's go take it. I still respect Detroit till they show me a reason not to. I still respect Detroit and San Francisco. Still think it's their conference, those two teams' conference until otherwise notified. But I think we are definitely in the mix on that next tier down. Why not? And again, anything can happen once you get, if you're playing bonus football, but we are a long ways away from there, right? Long ways away. Sean again, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Lou, how come that we are winning? LB hating on us because we are celebrating our QB, but when they was doing it, it was okay, but we wrong. I just laugh at them. I love your content. Hashtag HTTC. I appreciate the support. I really, truly do. You know what it is? He feels threatened. I told you already. When he feels threatened, he lashes out. When he doesn't respect you, he dismisses you, right? But when he feels threatened, they're 2-2. They look a mess. We're 3-1. Everyone's saying that we're the best team in the division. I've already told anybody that would listen, we not only have the best quarterback in the division, we got the best quarterback in the conference. And there are people echoing those sentiments. He's an ESPN watcher, is LB. So during his bye week, he's got to sit there and listen to people lauding and praising the Commanders. He's never had to deal with this. He's never in his lifetime as a real Eagles fan. He's too young to see this team be successful at that level. He's never really truly had to deal with this. Even in the 2012 season, we were 3-6. We were 3-6 before we won 7 straight to get to 10-6. It's not like we were kicking ass at the beginning of the season like we are right now. He's never had to deal with this. He thought his biggest competition this year was going to be Dallas. Now he realizes I might have been looking at the wrong team the entire time. And now he's scared. When he's scared, this is what he does. I haven't watched it yet, but it's probably comical. It's probably comical. And he was probably very upset after the video I posted. I know. When I said in the video, you mad. You big mad. You knew he was mad. You knew they were mad. Eagles fans, the ones that are in denial, they big mad. It's not the ones that are like, nah, he right. You know? I don't know if they're going to, continue to play like this, but right now, he ain't said nothing wrong yet. It's the ones that's still holding on for dear life. They ain't trying to hear that shit. Kamora, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB who writes, things are good. Buckeyes solid. Commanders good. Last time I was confident was 99 draft night. Chase Young. I thought you were talking about like 1999. I was like, damn. House of Horrors. Go wash. Love the QB. Can't describe the feeling. It's euphoria. What we're watching right now is euphoric. I have never had this much confidence ever. Not even when Robert was the quarterback. I've never had this much confidence. I would probably have to talk to an OG Redskins fan because I'm pretty sure back in 82 and 83 in particular, when Theismann won MVP, when we scored the most points in NFL history, and that record stood until the Greatest Show on Turf came and broke it. I would have to guess they felt confident on offense back in those days when they had the football. Thought they would score on almost every possession. I've never felt that in my life. So I'd have to talk to an OG Redskins fan to see if they felt this way, that they're feeling right. Because I'm right now, every time we touch the ball, I expect to score. Never felt this way in my life. Ever. So, yeah. It's a different feeling, for sure. Sean again, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Sean again writes, Lou, I have a question. Do you think we need B-Rob in the game or should we let him rest? If he can play, you play him. There's no letting guys rest. We're not good enough to be resting. But one thing I can say with this staff, they've done a really good job of is they're not pushing guys if they're not. Like, could Cleveland Farrell have played? Maybe. But you know what they said? Nah, we're not doing that. We'll get him ready for week 5 against Cleveland. Could he have played against Arizona? Maybe. But they didn't push him. And I don't even see Cleveland Farrell on the injury report. Now, I don't know if, Clee is good and he didn't even need to be on the injury report or he not playing again this week, but I don't even see Clee on the injury report. So that tells me he was pretty close to playing in week number 4 and they just said, don't worry about it. Like if that was hey, we got to have this game to make the playoffs, he probably would have played. And so they've done a really good job of not pushing guys. If that guy, like, I like the fact that they've got the long term, like they're not just having tunnel vision and short term, goals in front of them, and they're so hell bent on, because that's what Rivera did with Curtis Samuel, right? He was so hell bent on Curtis Samuel coming back right now, and they didn't just let him rest, get healthy so he can help us for the long haul. This is not a sprint. It is a marathon. And if they think that B-Rob's needs a week so that he can help us from here to the bye week, then they'll probably give him that week. And we showed last week, even though he was out there and he rushed for 100 yards, we showed last week that we have some guys in the backfield that can pick up the slack, especially with Eckler coming back this week. But if he can go, like if he practices on a limited basis tomorrow and on Sunday he feels good, they're going to put him out there. And I would too. Kimura, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, not confident, more excited. 99 was different in college. Why are you a Notre Dame fan? Because that's so all of my teams, with the exception of the Memphis Grizzlies, I'm a fan of that team for the same reason. It was the first team that I saw, and it was the team I saw the most growing up as a kid. I saw Duke. They were in their prime in the early 90s. That's when I started really honing in on sports. And that's when they were about to go on that epic run with Coach K in the early 90s with Leitner and Hurley and Hill and all of those, Davis and all of those dudes. So I was a Duke Blue Devils fan. I was a Chicago Bulls fan because we had WGN. And so I saw Bulls games all the time. And so I became a Bulls fan. Redskins, obviously. We lived in Virginia, so that's what the games we got. So I saw Redskins, so that's why I became a Braves. And Notre Dame, they were on NBC. I saw them all the time. Braves, they were on TBS, Turner Broadcasting System. And so I saw them all the time. I became a Braves fan. So it's not rocket science. That's how I became a fan of all the teams that I root for, except for the Memphis Grizzlies. Shauna Gang, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Shauna writes, Lou, make sure you watch it because it's definitely throwing shade, bringing up our old Super Bowl, shaking my. He definitely in his feels. If he going back doing the Super Bowl thing, we ain't even talking about Super Bowls. Who brought up Super Bowls? Who brought that up? So he reaching now. He reaching. His quarterback playing like ass right now. His coach is a clown. The offensive coordinator is a jackass. And their defense is Denny's. He's reaching. Whew. They better turn things around before the next Super Friends stream. I'll just say that. Because if they don't, it's going to get real, as he would say, it's going to get real dark for him. Mike Jink, been a member for 23 months, almost at their 2-year Annie. Who writes, Lou, what up, Mike? What's up, my guy? What's going on with you? Calm down on that Philly talk. We on a bye. No stressing this week. I didn't bring up Philly. Somebody said LB was over there tossing shade our way. I said my piece, and I said, I'm going to leave y'all alone. And I even went a step further and said, I'm not going to do the around the NFC East next week. I'm going to give you a break because I'm going to be in first place no matter what happens. Whether we lose to Cleveland or not, I'm going to still be in first place regardless. So I said, I'm going to cut you a break. I'm not even going to do it next week. I'm not even going to force y'all to hear my mouth. I'm going to give you a break. I've already said my piece. Y'all know where I stand. All right. Y'all look, Eagles fans laughed at me when I was talking my talk last week. Eagles fans laughed at me when I told y'all it won't nothing but a Jaden party. Y'all were laughing at me when I said, hey, we about to have the best quarterback in the division. Look out for us. Laughed at me. Can't wait till you lose. That's what I heard. Y'all are so trash. It's y'all Super Bowl. All the shit y'all always say to us to try to demean us. Y'all can't do it this time because this ain't a fluke. It's easy to dismiss us when the shit is a fluke. This is not a fluke, Mike Jink. And deep down inside, you know it. But you're a rational Eagles fan. I ain't even talking to you, man. You ain't even one of them ones. Right? It's the irrational Eagles fans that I'm talking to. It's them dudes that I'm talking to. Sean again. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Lou, I agree with you on us not getting Adams. I agree. And I don't see us doing that because he doesn't fit our culture. And listening to DQ talk at his press conference, listening to Cliff Kingsbury talk about unselfishness today, talking about guys blocking down the field and watching the 49ers tape from last year and seeing the unselfishness and going out of his way to bring that up. They're essentially, without telling you, they're telling you he doesn't fit here. Now, again, not fitting here from a culture standpoint and not having to give up a lot to get him is two different things. If the opportunity presented itself to get him and not have to give up a ton to do it, you'd be remiss if you didn't explore that option, right? But I'm not giving up a whole heap of assets to acquire a dude who I don't think necessarily fits into the dynamic of my locker room. I'm not doing that. Kimura, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Kimura writes, 2K5, the first year I remember. Fam, I was in DC for the glory. From the Cebus, at least I got my underachieving from Columbus. I think that's what that's supposed to be. I at least got my underachieving Buckeyes. Well, what was their last national chip? Was that with? That wasn't with Cardale Jones, was it? Y'all won another one after that. Was Cardale Jones? He wasn't with. No, you had to have won one. Ezekiel Elliott won a national championship, didn't he? Didn't they beat Alabama? Who was the quarterback then, though? I think that's your most recent chip. Herb. Did Herb win one? Herb. I thought Herb won one with Cardale. Am I tripping? I might be tripping. You'd have to straighten me out on that. Joe Rockhead. I felt like Zeke got one against Bama, but I can't remember who the quarterback was then. You know what? No, it couldn't be him. It couldn't be your boy that ended up playing for the Patriots. Again, I think he was with the Patriots. I don't know if he played with them, but I could be tripping. Joe Rockhead, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Joe Rockhead writes, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. LB gave props, but you can see it was hurting him. Okay, I'm going to check it out. I'm gonna check out the video. I'm going to check it out. See what he was talking about. Shauna Gang, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Shauna writes, Lou, one more thing. What order wide receiver would you think we could get at the trade deadline? What wide receiver? I don't know. Because, again, when it comes to trading for a receiver, a lot of factors have to be in play, right? You got to put a lot of things into perspective. One, the team that is giving up the receiver, their season has to either be over or trending in the wrong direction. So that's number one. If I'm playing well, like a lot of people looked at, say, Cortland Sutton and say, man, we might be able to get a Cortland Sutton at the trade deadline. Well, the Broncos are 2-2. Their defense is lights out. They may get to the trade deadline and say, no, we got a chance to make the playoffs. We're not trading Cortland Sutton. For what? Heck no, right? So, one, the team you're going to try to poach from, they got to be on the downslide. Their season's done. It's trending in that direction, or they have no interest in re-signing X said player. And so let's get something for him, right? Two, you yourself have to be in a position where it makes sense for you to go and trade for a player, right? So if our season takes a turn for the worse somehow, why would you go get a receiver, right? So obviously we have to be in a position where it makes sense for us. And three, the compensation for said receiver has to match. Like, I'm not giving up a ton for a guy, right, at this point of the season. And it has to make sense. Like, a lot of people keep trying to throw veteran receivers our way. Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams. Like, those are cool, but to me, those don't fit the timeline. I'm not interested in a 31-year-old Devontae Adams, even though he could have 3 more good seasons left in him. I'm not interested in a 31-year-old Devontae Adams. I'm more interested in the 24, the 25, the 26-year-old, the 27-year-old even, right? But we can also explore the draft. There are talented receivers coming out in the draft every single year. So you don't have to do anything, but if they want to do something, there will be options available. You just have to weigh the pros and the cons and decide, do I want to give up whatever the asking price is? Kamora, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Kamora writes, it was Cardell and Zeke together. Sad times. Got to win this year. I thought it was. I was like, was Cardell with Zeke? I remember I felt like Zeke got one. I wasn't sure if that was with Cardell, though, but it was. Damn, that's a long time ago. That's a long ass time ago. Joe Rocket, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? AP said he's building through the draft. Like a wino eating grapes, we have to wait. I don't mind. That's how you build your team. You supplement through free agency and the trade market. You build through the draft. That's always been the tried and true method of building a sustainable winner. If you start giving away draft picks, you end up like the Los Angeles Rams. They got their Super Bowl, but you're only getting one out of that bitch when you trade away all your first-round picks for a 7-year stretch. They drafted Jared Goff in 2016, and their first time making a first-round selection was in 2024. They hadn't made a first-round selection in 7 drafts since drafting Jared Goff in 2016 because they went for it, and they didn't care about first-round picks. They were going for it. So they would trade a couple of first-round picks for Jalen Ramsey. They traded a first-round pick for, I don't think it was Odell Beckham. They traded like a first-round pick. It might have been for Von Miller. Might have traded a first-round pick for Von Miller. But they didn't care about picks. First, second-round pick, they didn't give a shit. But that's not sustainable. They'll never win another Super Bowl anytime soon. And they gave away a bunch of them for Matthew Stafford. They got their Super Bowl, though. But you're trying to build a sustainable winner. You want the Kansas City Chiefs model where, hey, 1 ain't enough, 2 ain't enough, 3 ain't enough. They trying to win 3 in a row. They already done won 3 Super Bowls. They trying to make it 4 Super Bowls, 3 in a row, and they got as long as Mahomes is there, they got plenty of opportunities. That's what you want. Keep that window open as long as possible and draft capital because it's cheap labor is what keeps you in a position to go and get expensive free agents that can supplement your roster, but keeps you in a healthy position to be able to compete year after year after year. Billy D. Marcus, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? Lou, NFL fans around the league have no idea Daniel Snyder is gone. Their brains are literally locking up. Chef Pete hasn't turned over the roster yet. Slowly but surely, they're going to figure it out. But they keep waiting. Like some fans in the fan base are waiting for the other shoe to drop. And then a lot of fans outside of this fan base are expecting the old skins to show up. Oh, yeah, they'll blow it. They don't realize it ain't that type of party no more. I said 2 years ago when Dan Snyder, when we realized we was getting him the hell out. Well, I said this last year to the Super Friends. I said, y'all can't make me feel bad about this upcoming season because this was before the season started. I said, no matter what happens this year, I'm going to feel great. We already won because we got rid of Daniel Snyder, and that's almost like winning the Super Bowl. That's almost like winning the Super Bowl because you were never going to have a sustainable winner. You were never going to truly have franchise-altering success as long as he was the owner here. You weren't going to have it. That black cloud being lifted has changed everything. And then you just start building. We got the right owner too, and that was important. You know, you mess around, get the wrong owner, we could have been right back. I mean, you look at the Panthers. We could have got somebody like that and been right back in the same situation again. Don't worry, Chef P's, he's already cooking. And he's got a lot of money. And he's going to hit the grocery store. He's going to buy a lot of ingredients this offseason. Don't you worry. Free agency, the draft, I expect this roster to look significantly different next year. And I said, we trying to crash the party early. And if we do that successfully, look out. Next year could be crazy. It's eerily similar to the Texans model. I didn't think we would be able to pull off the Texans model. I kept telling anybody that would listen all offseason, we're not the Texans. Stop doing that. You're setting yourself up for disappointment. We are literally trying to follow the Texans model. Overachieve in year one, win the division, win a playoff game, and then the next year, balls to the wall. Let's go get us a chip. Let's go get us a chip. Shauna Gang, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, agree with what you're saying, but do you think the secondary is doing now, honestly? How do you think the secondary is doing? I think that the secondary is doing what we thought it was going to do before the season started. It's a mediocre group. And it is the job of the defensive staff to try to minimize their impact on the game on a weekly basis, and that is extremely hard to do. It is extremely hard to do. We don't have a number one corner. That is apparent. Not one guy on our roster is capable of covering. It doesn't even have to be an elite number one. Not one guy on our roster is capable of covering a number one wide receiver. It could be a back end of the league number one. It could be a middle tier, mid number one. Good and well, we can't cover an elite one. We've seen that in the first 4 weeks. 3 weeks in particular. I was surprised Marvin Harrison Jr. ain't go off on us, to be honest. But we've proven that we can't cover a number one receiver. So the secondary is what it is. The question is, can we get them to a point where they don't hurt us as bad and it gives us a chance to win on a weekly basis? That is the key, right? So anyway, I digress. A big win for the Atlanta Falcons. Come from behind victory. This is the second improbable victory that they've had this season. They had no business beating Philadelphia. They had no business winning this game. And somehow a Falcons team that could easily be 1-4 right now. 0-5, if you think about it. They could easily be 0-5 right now. Is somehow 3-2. Unbelievably. Remarkably, they're 3-2. It kind of feels like it's a Falcons type of year in terms of this division. With the things that have happened to this point already, it's kind of feeling like the football gods are smiling on the Falcons right now. So, big win for the Falcons. Gut-wrenching loss for the Bucs. Both teams leave the game at 3-2, sit atop the NFC South together. Falcons are now 2-0 in the division, and that's the most important thing, is they've won 2 consecutive division games, both at home. So, again, they're going to have to go on the road in the division moving forward. But to get this win, to pull, into a tie for first place, to not allow the Bucs to get to 4-1, create that separation. This was a big one. Kirk Cousins, 509 yards passing in this game. He was locked in and could have had more. If not for a couple of drops, could have had more yards passing in this game, if you can believe that. But what a game. That's a hell of a way to kick off week 5. Quick shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this stream. Again, if you're looking for a new book this football season, BetUS has you covered. Go to betus.com. Use the promo code YouTube150. All right. to get you a 150% sign-up bonus on up to $2,000 on your first deposit, and the 2 deposits thereafter, 125% sign-up bonus. Go to betus.com and use the promo code YouTube150. So, you guys get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll be back tomorrow for the Louie T Network podcast. We'll have our Thursday night leftovers. We'll get into my money picks of the week. We'll talk about the college football games. I still haven't forgot. We're going to talk about those college football games because we didn't have a podcast today. We're also going to go over my power index for week number 5 in the National Football League. So lots to get to tomorrow. Hopefully you tune in. If you're a Commanders fan, we'll also have CNN tomorrow where we will give our preview and prediction, keys to the game, and the outcome for the game against the Cleveland Browns. Lots to get to tomorrow. Hopefully I see you then. But you guys, take care. God bless. Big win for the Atlanta Falcons. You guys have a good one. See you next time.
Louie